Welcome to Sports Connection. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director. And Tate Mathews, football is now in the books. And I thought this was kind of an apropos quote. Sometimes you shoot for the stars and you still fall into the clouds. 2 state runner-up finishes in football, obviously with Page and Summit. We were looking for state titles. Didn't quite get that, but let's face it, they played 2 pretty tough opponents, and I thought they represented themselves and WCS very well.
Oh, I thought they represented us very, very well, and sometimes that happens, right? But you're exactly right. Shoot for the stars, even if you come up a little bit short, sometimes you're higher than where you were before. And the effort that both teams put forward and the coaching staffs and the crowds, outside of not winning the games, which sometimes that happens, I don't think you could be disappointed at all in the season that either one of those teams had. And you're kind of right. Football's not exactly over. There is the Tennessee East-West All-Star
Which
game.
you're very involved in.
Yes, and that's Friday night. I know Jake McNamara's in it. And there's some other kids from Williamson County in it as well. But there's one more game. It'll be this Friday night. Mr. McNamara is going to have a life-changing experience. I may or may not be on the west sideline with a headset. Probably give him a little.
Wow.
Because, he needs it. He could use
a
lot of quarterback advice from me.
Just bring out your best Bobo kind of coaching skills.
Yeah. Hey.
You do that and you'll be fine.
I'm just going to say, hey, man, just do what you do, brother.
Well, tell our audience, because I think it's important to mention, tell the audience about your involvement in that game, how that came about.
Well, Bill Marbett, who all the baseball guys, or most of the baseball guys in the county, he was Southern Athletic Fields. Great guy. Was the first guy to really get into the seriously, their tagline is dirt. You got to love it. They sold dirt to baseball fields, and then he grew it. And anyways, he's a great man. He's the head of the TACA, Tennessee Athletic Coaches Association, and they've been the driving force, or he's been the driving force behind the All-Star game. It used to be, when we were in high school, remember it was the Tennessee-Kentucky All-Star game,
yes.
And it was played in the summer. Well, with early enrollment and things like that, that's no good anymore. And so he took it and made it the Tennessee East-West All-Star game. They take 44 from the East, 44 from the West. Obviously, we're Middle Tennessee. We kind of are the dividing line. Most of Wilco always goes west. So I got involved with them about 3 or 4 years ago with the Adidas part of it, what they give these young men to be, and the cheerleaders too, but what these young men get to be a part of this All-Star game is unbelievable. It's all Adidas, and it's just, I was lucky enough that my oldest son played in it 3 years ago. Well, we didn't have it last year because of COVID. We had a combine, but it's an unbelievable experience for these young men. They'll show up on Tuesday, and they stay in the dorm together. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, practice. Then Friday, they get up, have a practice, and play the game in Austin Peay Stadium. It's a great event, and the thing I love about it is, especially for a lot of our kids here, there'll be a Page kid quite possibly rooming with a kid from Memphis Central or Lake County or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And it gives them a glimpse of what it's like to be in a college locker room. So it's a great event. Coach Ingle Martin is the head coach of the West this year, and he needed a little help in the passing game, so he's giving me a headset. Obviously, I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Is Doug Mathews going to be involved in this game?
No.
He might. Not that he doesn't have the ability, because he certainly does.
He might be
we'd
in the
have
stands.
We'd have to prep him a little bit.
Coach takes it a little serious. when it's kind of like, you remember Over the Top, and when the hat would go backwards, he kind of changed. When you get between the white lines,
the hat goes backwards.
Granddaddy becomes Coach Mathews, and there's a transformation. There's a switch that flips.
I still think that's a show maybe later.
Not everybody's quite prepared for that.
Hey, Tate, listen. Now, before we move on, because we want to talk about those football games. And I don't want to steal the thunder of next week's show. Maybe it's the first time we've done this. We're going to do kind of the first semester fall sports in review, just to kind of let our audience know. I know we talk about this a lot. We are now 4 team state champions 3 team runners-up. We have an individual champion. And looking at this, all but 3 schools have a state championship or a runner-up after the fall semester. That's pretty exciting.
That's unbelievable. I mean, I don't even have to do the research. There's no one else that can boast that. And again, you're saying all but 3. There's 9 schools.
It's 2/3.
It's not like we, it's not like we got 6 schools and only 3. I mean, it's unbelievable. And at the 2 highest levels of competition.
No doubt.
And this isn't D2 1A, the Smoky Mountain Dump versus the County Dump.
Hey, let's talk just a little bit the other sports. And again, we'll be full-fledged these other sports come next semester. But a couple of scores I think of interest and results of interest in girls basketball. Page with a 17-point win over Brentwood to move to 7-1 on the year. Centennial girls wins over Siegel and Smyrna.
You called it.
I mean, I'm telling you, he's doing really well. Great coach, Coach Hamilton there. Summit girls with a 9-point loss to Lebanon. Lebanon's a great team. Summit has some players out. Watch out for Coach Wild and Summit as the year progresses. On the boys' side, Brentwood with the win over Page. Daniel Cochran with 22 in that game. Centennial boys, same thing, wins over Siegel and Smyrna. Ravenwood with a couple of wins over Hillsborough and Blackman. And then the Indy boys, they take on Cane Ridge, easily one of the best 5 teams in the state. They've got a pro on their team. He's choosing to go to Alabama. He's a pro.
He's a first rounder.
He could be a first rounder at the end of this year if he chooses to be. That game's tied at 50 late in the game. Cane Ridge ends up winning 66-60. Independence follows that up with a 94-point performance against Rockvale. And the thing I liked about it was this. Number one, it's a great atmosphere there at Independence. And the belief.
Yep.
Those Independence kids believed they were going to win. That starts with the head coach, Mark Wilkins, who, like Coach Hamilton, is doing such a wonderful job in his first year there at Independence. So it was exciting.
Yeah, and 66-60 again. Cane Ridge was the runner-up to Houston.
Correct.
They've got an NBA first-round pick on their team, and he is the only player they have. Coach Sims is a really good coach. What I'm telling you is 66-60, that's a lot of points to score against Cane Ridge. The 94, I think that's more what you can expect. If you like offense, if you like up and down, if you like fast-paced, the Independence Eagles are the team for you to go watch this year. They will not disappoint in that. They're wide open.
There's some games coming up I'm looking forward to. And I know our friend, the White Tiger, Coach Bond, I know you're out there watching, Coach, because he's saying, hey, what about us?
Well, I think if you go back to Media Day, I said, we were talking about some other teams, and you said, don't you think so? I said, no, I think Brentwood has something to say about that. I think if you sleep on Brentwood, you're in serious trouble.
Circle this date, December 17th.
I think we need to be in attendance.
Brentwood at Independence. I'm hearing, word on the street is, my former principal, Mr. Frank Cardwell, I think is going to be at that game. Coach Wilkins was at Beach as an assistant while he was there, and he invited him to the game. So that's going to be a fun game. Again, Coach Bond doing a great job there at Brentwood as well.
That one will be, the gym will be intense that night.
It'll be great. It'll be great. Well, and the thing about Coach Bond's teams, and I say this with all due respect, especially since I'm not coaching against him now, his teams always, it's that edge of its toughness. Sometimes it's a little extra. But I say that, again, with respect. Yeah. It's not flagrant. It's not, nobody's going to get hurt, but they walk that edge of, hey, we're going to get in your face a little bit, which I think serves them well. Very defensive-minded coach.
I like it. I can't wait.
Let's talk a little bowling. Summit, for whatever reason, this is probably another show for another day. In bowling, we have 9 teams in our county, 8 play in the same district, everybody but Summit. Summit, the boys, their district, they beat Columbia in the semis, they beat Spring Hill in the finals, so congratulations to the Summit boys. They are district champions. Then the other 8 teams in District 9, at the taping of this show, on the girls' side, Franklin blanks Fairview 23-0. Page 18-5 over Nolensville.
Is that a boat captain in bowling?
Yeah, it is, but it's in the county.
I know, we don't do that.
In fact, there's several on here I'm going to read. Page 18-5 over Nolensville. Centennial 20-3 over Ravenwood. Brentwood 18-5 over Indy. That sets up semifinals. Franklin and Page Centennial, and Brentwood. Tell our audience, Tate, about the boys' side on bowling.
Well, Franklin defeated Fairview 23-0, correct?
Same story, different chapter.
Same story, different chapter. Centennial 22, Independence 1. Now, we need to dig a little deeper here. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, probably not fair. What is the 1? Where does, you know what I'm saying?
So here's what happens. Okay, Paul Brees. So not to get too detailed about this, but there's like 6 individual matchups.
Yes.
And then there's a point for each one. And then they do total pins for a couple extra points. And then this year, we talked about this before, they've added these Baker matches. I think there's 5 of them. In a Baker match, which to me is totally exciting, it's my team against your team, but there's 5 of us against your 5. I bowl the first frame.
Oh, man.
You're my teammate. You bowl the second. Comes back around. I bowl the 6th. And it's like this exciting, they do it at the college level. It was a great change by TSSAA.
I like that. Well, that's where Independence got their 1. Then.
Somewhere,
Centennial,
right?
22, Independence 1. Brentwood, 21. Ravenwood, 1. Page, 20. Nolensville, 3. Semifinals, Franklin versus Centennial. Brentwood versus Page.
You know, in the common threads you're seeing there, if you look on both sides, Franklin's boys and girls make it, Centennial's boys and girls, Brentwood's boys and girls, Page. So those 4 schools represented both times, and Franklin, I think they'll win both. Coach Logan, I mean, we've got a lot of folks doing a great job, but Coach Logan, let me tell you, he has quickly turned into like the dude when it comes to bowling.
I like it.
And I told you what he's doing with middle school.
Yes. That's where you have to. You have to.
He believes it. And I'll say
If
this.
you want to win on the state level, it's just like wrestling. Hey, we've talked about that for years. Until, you can do whatever you want to do. But if you don't have that wrestling club,
Right.
you're not going to beat the Clevelands of the world. You're not going to beat the Bradleys of the world. You're not going to. Same thing with bowling. Hardin County, we've talked about it. They start bowling when they're still sucking on pacifiers down there. That's okay. We got something for them.
Hey, listen, well, you talk about a guy like Bubba Derrick, listen, I'm obviously a Fairview homer, one of my favorite squads in WCS. When I first went out to that school and they said, okay, here's what we've got going, and I was trying to check out the facilities, and here's where we're wrestling. They're wrestling up on this stage. I've never heard him mention it one time. Woe is us. Why don't we have a wrestling room? Why don't we have this? What's he do? He puts his head down. He works, makes the best of the situation they have. He's got the spotlight matches there in that Aux gym. He's made it big time. Make the big time where you're at. Always try to make things better, but don't make it an obstacle and something you can't overcome. That's what guys like Bubba Derrick does. That's what he does. That's what guys like Ted Logan, he also does the same thing.
I like it. You got me fired up.
I'm pumped. Let's go bowl.
I love watching.
I do too. So looking forward to seeing how that progresses. Now, let's talk a little football, Tate. Again, this is bittersweet for a lot of different reasons, and I thought it was interesting because you love all the sports, right?
Yes.
But you've got to, obviously, for a lot of different reasons, for your background and your family's background and what you're involved in and what you do with your show on the weekends. You got a pretty soft spot for football, and I thought it was interesting after the game. You were talking about, hey, it's disappointing we lost, but I thought it was interesting. You said, man, I'm sad. It's coming to an end. Football is coming to an end.
Yeah, it is sad, man. It's there's nothing like it. I've heard people that have played in high school, college, and the pros. You hear Brett Favre, he's a Hall of Famer. Some make the argument he's the greatest ever, and he'll tell you his fondest memories are high school football. Now think about that, man. This guy was on the highest stage there is. And so, in my opinion, nothing quite brings the community together quite like it. The band, the cheerleaders, the student section. I mean, how awesome was that to see the Patriot Nation and the Spartan Nation down there, and that student leader or whoever he was from Summit, man, he got me amped up. So, it's just cool. And so it's the end, it's the first thing to start the year off along with volleyball and cross country. I know that, women's soccer. But, you put so much time into it and it just seemed like it flew by. So, and 2 great stories, 2 great games, 2 great schools. I'm sure you're going to hit on it a little bit. What's it going to be like first year in Chattanooga? I absolutely loved it. Sure, from an athletic administrator's viewpoint, which you notice things I don't. There's some things they can improve on, but that's everything, right? I thought the stadium was beautiful. I know the kids enjoyed playing on it. The setup with the pavilion next door, I liked everything about it. Now, again, let's take it year one and make it better, but I think that is an experience that those Page players and cheerleaders and Summit players and cheerleaders will definitely remember for a long time.
100% agree with everything you just said. You know, something else I was thinking with football, Mr. Cardwell used to say this as a principal. He said, I can tell you how the school year is going to go based on the football season.
Yep.
Because if the students are into it for a longer period of time, that takes you right up to Christmas break, and then you're rolling. If the season doesn't go well, early on, some of those problems that happen in school might start popping up. That's one thing I was thinking about when you were talking about it. And the other thing is, probably more than any sport, it's over. You know, if you now in every sport, people don't necessarily go on to play at the next level, but you know, if I'm a basketball player or a tennis player or a golfer or even a baseball player with things like softball, I can still keep playing.
Right.
With football, you're probably not putting the pads on and tackling each other and you're like 37 years old. Now, obviously, Coach Hughes out at Fairview, he's got something going on with flag
there's no
football.
pads.
You know, it's different.
Yeah.
So that sport, and listen, I'm a basketball guy. I coach basketball. But I really appreciate those things about football. And, you know, and I hear people say, and you know, I think you could argue this, but you hear football coaches talking about the ultimate team sport because you've got 11 guys that have to do something together on every single play. So I appreciate that about that sport.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and also through the work week, right? Like you play once a week. You're guaranteed 10 a year. That's it. These two teams were blessed to play 15. Dang, the Summit Spartans, this senior class, they paid 45 in 3 years.
Yeah, special.
And the cool thing about that, I never thought about it this way, but Coach Dalton told me this one time. Here's the benefit of the run Summit just went on.
Do you have a voice to go with this?
His was kind of hard. He was real gravelly.
Donnie Webbish?
Oh, worse. Coach Webb, I think Coach Dalton's in the Franklin Hall of Fame.
Yes, he is.
But think about this, man. Think about these upcoming seniors, upcoming juniors for Summit. They have now played 3 seasons, 5 games and 5 games. They have played 3 regular seasons and 2. That's another season. That's another 10 weeks of practice, reps, getting better, you know, and you can't put a price tag on that. The other thing is, you were talking about the ultimate team game, the 11, but it's just like, but Monday through Thursday on practice, you got to have 11 to line up against them. You got to have a look, you know, and so it's all those guys behind them. It takes all of them. And then the other thing too, you know, I love that about Wilco basketball. You said that when you got down here. You've been in tons of big games. The Wilco basketball crowds are just different. The Wilco football crowds are just different. There's people there. There were people. Hey, we went to the Summit game. Eric Hazard walks up and introduces himself. And at first I was a little caught off guard. I said, what are you doing here? I had to come to this game, man. There were Page people, the Cottons, there were Page people down there to watch Summit. It's just a community deal, man. Nothing else like it. Not to make anybody mad, but it's just the truth.
Very well said, Tate. Very well said. Page comes up short 34-42 to Knoxville Powell in the 5A game. Several things we could talk about. I think the big thing was down 21-0 early. They fumble early in the game. There's a miscue on a kickoff, and you think, oh boy, this thing's over. But if you remember from the week before, don't count Page out. In fact, they come all the way back to 21-20, and it was interesting to me with Coach Rathbone, they go for 2 instead of trying to tie the game, and his description of it was, hey, we thought it could be a huge momentum shift. If we not only come back, we go for 2 and take the lead at the half. So I thought that was interesting. Hard to question, Coach, done a great job. But those 3 scores, touchdown passes from McNamara to Boyce Smith, Michael Mayer, Ethan Cunningham with a rushing touchdown, and then again that 2-point conversion fails. They get down 35-20. Again, you're thinking, okay, this thing's over. Nope. Cunningham with another touchdown. Powell scores again. Boy Smith again. And now it's 42-34.
It's crazy.
And what happens for the second week in a row? And I think the rules maybe are set up where the onside kick's a little harder to recover now.
It is.
They do it again.
Yeah.
They've got the ball, and with 6 seconds left, McNamara's throwing a pass in the end zone to potentially tie the game if they get the 2-point conversion. Unbelievable. And Page was just one of those teams. Everybody in Chattanooga was talking about, wow, that team, they don't quit. And it was impressive.
Oh, yeah. Well, one, if you're not a fan of Page or Powell and you were at that game, you got your money's worth. How exciting was that? And there's so many things from it. You're right, but I mean, think about that. Here you are. The goal is always to be in the state championship game. You make it, and like that, you're down 21-0. It'd been easy to hang your head, and
Yeah.
they didn't do it. And this is against a good football team too. And you're right, man. They came back and. It was, you know, you should have expected it because that's what they do. But the way they came back and, you know, it was just, as a fan of the game, it was just a great, entertaining game to watch. You mentioned that 2-point conversion. We were standing down there in the end zone. And I thought that was great what Coach Rathbone said. The other part of what he said was he said they had not been down much this year at all, very little. So let's get them down, apply some pressure to them and see how they haven't been under pressure a whole lot. And the play was open. I'm pretty sure Nolan's the one who got in McNamara's way, the whatever star he is, just a really good athlete who made a really good play. But had that thing gone through, yeah, that would have been pretty interesting to watch. So that was awesome. You mentioned then they go back down again during the second half. They kept fighting. They're never out of it. And to have a chance to tie that thing up, last play of the game, was unbelievable. Jordan Potts, the quarterback for Powell, was the Blue Cross MVP. I knew he played really well. I was stunned. I don't know if you were. When I saw his stats the next day, he was 24 for 30 for 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards. What's the point? Coach Matt Lowe, the head coach, he talked more about McNamara than he talked about his own quarterback, who was the Blue Cross MVP. And he said, that's as fine. He called him that Page kid or that Page boy or something. He said, that's as fine of a quarterback as you'll find anywhere. Really cool.
It really was cool. McNamara, 65 yards rushing to go along with his 291 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and even more than that. At times, he was running for his life.
Yeah.
He really was. And it was what was so interesting, and this is actually a compliment to Page. If you were just watching parts of the game and not paying attention to the score, you would think, okay, this Powell team's kind of dominating. But they just don't quit, man. They come up with plays, and they feel like, and really a lot like Summit, too. I think these two teams had this in common. And I think this is more than any teams in WCS. And it's no knock on those teams. Those felt like the most cohesive teams in WCS where everybody believed in their role. There wasn't these jealousies that happen sometimes amongst these teams, especially when you've got great players. Those kids love McNamara. And then the other thing I liked is the players showed up in these games. Big games from Mayer, 123 yards receiving, obviously Boy Smith, Ethan Cunningham, Jake McNamara. You saw those guys perform on the biggest stage. I think personally, and I know if Pauly D's watching from Nolensville, he's going to go against this because I said this a couple.
What do you mean if? He'll be watching.
I said this a couple of weeks ago. Ultimately, you want to win, right? And you're never satisfied with losing. But because of the effort and the way you performed, you ultimately can put your head on the pillow and accept it.
I think Coach Rathbone said that, and I think he meant it. And you mentioned it. All the people stepped up. The offensive line / defensive line stepped up. Leaner and sacks and all of them, man. And you know that guy they were playing against. He's the #1 rated prospect in the state. Let me tell you something. Again, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Texas A&M, they don't have to come to Tennessee to get a defensive lineman. Okay, that's why he's the #1.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to talk about another couple of guys that I personally think are better. The reason he's rated the #1 prospect in the state is because defensive linemen are so hard to get. Texas does not come to Tennessee to get a defensive lineman that is maybe, you know, he's a project, right? that kid is a dude. And, I felt like the Page offensive line did a great job handling him. He got a little bit tired. If they could have just applied some more pressure, they were tired towards the end of the second quarter. And so I thought those guys did an unbelievable job as well. Just got beat, I don't think this is one, if they play 10, that Powell wins 9, but I think probably 7 or 6 out of 10, and they had a chance. They had a chance.
Had a chance. 13-2 to end the season. Then on Saturday night, the final game of the season, probably the most anticipated game. And the reason we talked about it, here was proof of it. Parking was $10 on Friday night, and the same lights, it was $20 on Saturday. Well, you up the price when
you mentioned that Saturday before the game. I thought that was hilarious.
When
that's a great observation.
When people are going to be there, you go, it's supply and demand.
They doubled it.
Supply and demand. It's fantastic. And by the way, this week's gem for that game, for the first time ever, all 3 Mr. Football finalists played in the state championship game. Obviously, the young man from Oakland, great player, and then the Wades for Summit. But I thought that was pretty interesting. That's the first time it happened. Final score, Oakland 43, Summit 26. Summit starts off the game, big rushing touchdown by Keaton Wade to go up 6-0. They missed the extra point, which really changed the game and how it was played from that point forward. By the time the night ended, they had that one missed extra point, and then they also failed on two two-point conversions. So there's really, it's probably potentially 3 points. Right. Because if you kick the first one, you probably kick the next 2. So there's 3 points you miss out on at least. Oakland responds with 2 straight scores, but again, Summit comes right back. A great 14-play, 80-yard drive. Took 6 minutes, which I thought was great for Summit. Destin Wade with the 2-yard run. Again, the 2-point failed. And then 28-12 going into the half. Oakland scores a couple more times, and you're thinking, uh-oh, maybe it's trouble. But Summit comes right back. They come right back, cut it to 28-18, and then it kind of goes back and forth, 35-18, 35-26, 43-26, and then on that final possession, deep in Oakland territory, Oakland gets an interception. So Summit, once they got down 28-12, they couldn't quite get back in it, but that was a game that still you felt like they can just get a break.
Yep.
They can get one of those Page High School strips or an onside kick or something to change that momentum. But again, no shame in that. Oakland's a great team. And I think you could argue who the best teams are, but I think if you took every school in the state, without question, Summit is top 3, if not second, in the state. Oakland, you got to give it to them. Probably the best team, them or Lipscomb.
Oakland beat them.
Oakland.
I go Oakland.
I want to say Oakland. I'm saying Oakland.
Oakland beat Summit 43-26. Now, could that thing have been closer? Yes. But
sure.
Holy cow, 43 points on Summit. They beat Lipscomb. They beat CPA. They beat Riverdale twice. I'm going Oakland. They won 30. They beat Maryville. Oh, sorry, I forgot about that one. Anyways, this isn't an Oakland show. There's a lot to unpack there. First time all 3 Mr. Football finals played in the state championship game, and we're talking about 6A, the Big Daddy, and it is the Big Daddy. And all 3 of them showed out.
They did.
Nobody watching that game says, oh, that guy doesn't need to be one of them. All 3 of them showed out. I thought there was, as a Summit fan, but also I've talked a lot about it, almost probably where it's over the edge, but watching Coach Coleman's growth as a head coach has been unbelievable, but also as a play caller. Man, when he got to Summit, he had been coaching defensive line. You know what I'm saying? I mean, at Riverdale, then he had the 1 year at Forest. He takes over calling the plays. And man, I thought that first drive, we get the ball, and you mentioned it, we go right down the field, and we score. I thought that was awesome. That was obviously somewhat scripted, maybe all scripted, I don't know. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can tell a lot of time, preparation went into that, and man, it looked good, didn't it? Problem is, Oakland comes back. They're really good on offense too. So I just, we knew We knew or thought Antonio Patterson would be a problem. He ended up being a problem. Jordan James just had a big time game. I don't know. Brady Pierce, the way he played and on offensive, but I think even more impressive was the 13 tackles, 11 solo against Oakland, and he had that one hit going down towards the scoreboard. I mean, that was the best hit I saw all Blue Cross Bowl. I know people get tired of hearing it. They just got beat by a better team that night.
The players played, and we talked about that. Destin Wade, 165 yards rushing, 137 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 of which were rushing, 1 pass to Brady Pierce. Keaton Wade, 71 yards rushing, a touchdown, and 5 tackles. You talked about Brady with the tackles, a total of 13, 11 were solo, 96 yards receiving. But let me ask you this. I was thinking about this when I was looking at the stats. Good on Brady for leading the team in tackling, but that's not always the best sign when you've got somebody in the secondary leading you in tackling, correct?
Yeah, he's getting to the second level. But, and no, that's not great.
But they weren't getting loose.
They weren't getting loose. Sure tackler, but as you saw in that one hit, a physical tackler. And again, we're talking about Oakland. They've won 30 in a row. He had 13 tackles, and he played pretty much the whole game on offense too.
And he's back there punting.
In the 5A, 6A, and even smaller, but really in 6A, we live in the world of 2 platoon. Very, very few people play both ways anymore. He had to have been gassed after the game.
Well, and something, if you talk about the 2 teams that made the final, it's a little bit different. You talk about Page, they're losing some people, most notably Jake McNamara, but they've got some guys coming back.
No doubt.
I think Page is poised to keep it going. Not that Summit isn't, but that senior class, such a huge group for Summit. You talk about that offensive line. They were a little banged up. Mr. Cook, we love him and that family. He was banged up going into the game. But it has a little bit different a feel. It feels like kind of an ending for Summit, not for Summit football, but for this group. There's a bunch leaving.
Yeah.
When you talk about Page, there's some guys coming back. So I think that's part of it for Summit. It was interesting in looking at their comments after the game. It almost wasn't about the result. Of course you want to win, right? Of course you want to win. And losing hurts. But, and I've been there as a coach. Sometimes it's about an ending. It's that special group that's been together for so long. That's part of the pain of this one, I think, for Summit. Again, not only the result, but it's over.
It's over. But they'll never forget it, man. And yeah, these guys played together in middle school. So it's a really cool story. But, obviously, there's not a whole lot of Destin and Keaton Wade twins coming through a program, right? You don't replace guys like that, But what you do is, like I said, I think that's where Summit's at. That's what's this is sad. We're never going to see that group of seniors play together again. But this has now become a program, And
No
like
question.
I said, these guys that are coming back next year, they just had, the seniors, they just had another season of practice and reps and getting better. So they're going to look different. But Summit is now a program. Summit doesn't plan on showing up and fighting for 4th place next year, right? They plan on coming out and winning this dang thing again. It's going to look a little bit different, but they're going to be good.
Mr. Football finalists, again, Destin and Keaton Wade will announce the results of that next week. And do want to give final results of Pick'ems. Appreciate the fans all year, WCS, CO Athletics, voting. Listen.
This can't be right what I'm looking at.
It's actually true. There's 3 of us that were 0-2. 3 of us that are really WCS people. Yourself, the fans, and I all picked Summit and Page. We all missed the game.
Yep.
Dr. Claus.
Hey, and I would do it again. I wouldn't even think twice.
I would too. Well, of course, because you were going to win no matter what. So you end up with 67 wins. The fans in last was 63. Dr. Qualls and I tie for 64. And I want Coach Coleman to know this too, because we gave Dr. Qualls credit saying, hey, we want to back up. He did end up picking Summit over Ravenwood, so we gave Dr. Qualls credit, not for being a visor homer. But he did not pick either one of our teams. So he goes 2-0. Congratulations, Dr. Qualls. But he goes anti-WCS on both. And maybe he had to try to gain some
Anyway,
ground.
we can get one of Lance or one of the crew to go get a video explanation of this and kind of weave this into the end of the year review next week. I got to hear that. That's unbelievable.
We'll report back to you next week what the findings are. Hey, one final thing I want to mention, Tate. Again, you thanked the fans earlier and appreciate them voting all year long and coming out to the games. But we did something kind of cool at the event. You mentioned it was the Body Armor pregame experience in the First Horizon Pavilion, right there by the stadium. We set up our game day desk. It didn't have exactly the same feel of a game day because we didn't have students behind us. It was more of like a tailgate / pep rally area. The Page folks came out. They put the food everywhere on Friday night. It was really exciting. OTL was there to help us out. Dr. Qualls was there doing the show with the two of us. And then on Saturday, Summit really felt like a pep rally.
Gosh.
I don't think the group was as large as the Page group, but it was rowdy. We probably made the mistake of handing the mic to one of the guys from the Summit squad.
That was no mistake. That was unbelievable.
Your two favorite things that happened all year on the set, the Patriot early in the year, and then the Summit squad guy. And I really couldn't hear, but like every 3 words he was screaming so much in the mic.
I'll put it this way. He didn't use any words he shouldn't have. But he quoted the great American philosopher, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Which you obviously enjoyed.
You better believe it.
Hey, and appreciate Coach Hankins,
Yes.
cheerleading coach out there at Summit. She's always all in when it comes to game day and pregame experiences, so I want to thank her for
She's a
doing that as
Kern
well.
for life. Hey, I got to thank you. It was awesome. Everything about it was cool. And the great thing is, like we talked about, first year in Chattanooga, some things we learned and we can improve upon with that. Now we just need 2 more of our teams to show up again next year, which I think we very well can. But a big thank you goes out to the district-wide athletic director for having the vision to say, hey, we're going to take that game day set down there and do it. You won't say it, so I'll say it. You pulled the trailer down there yourself. You pulled it back. It would have been easy to just say, hey, I'm going to show up and flash my sideline pass and eat popcorn with Tommy and Charles and the crew. But, nobody else does anything like that. The other school systems are talking about it. Man, that's cool. Wow, that's really cool. How do we get something like that? Well, first thing you need to do is get somebody in that position who doesn't look at everything like this. So the older I get, I'm big on servant leadership, and that's definitely what you do.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you always being a part of it. And one final shout out, one of my former students, maiden name Metter, Cassidy, who was down there working for the city. It was pretty neat to see her in action, had her as a marketing student out there at Beach, and to see her doing her thing, it was pretty cool. Did a good job running that event, and I think it's a great location, and once they really get it going and learn from mistakes, not only the city of Chattanooga, but TSSAA, because you always learn from first-year mistakes, it's really going to be unreal moving forward.
I was all in, man. That field, I would love to hear from some of the players, but I think that stadium's a great venue. Great venue.
Totally agree. Tate, appreciate you being here.
Yeah, man. Hey, basketball season's going to be, I hate to put tie a bow on it, but basketball season's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Think we got a couple going to the Glass House?
Got a shot.
I do too.
Got a shot.
Yep.
And thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Sports Connection.